So a question I get asked quite a lot is, what is the best way to start a Harlequins army? Now, this depends a little bit on whether or not you're completely new to the Eldari, or whether or not you want to do a pure or a soup list based around something like the Harlequins with Craft Worlds, or with maybe the Drukhari as well. So there are lots of different ways, but there are a few absolutely basic points that you might want to consider. The first thing that you need to think about is, what kind of list do you want to be running, and what is your play style? Are you someone who prefers like a lot of aggressive ground troops, or do you want to do a lot more movement based shenanigans? However, there are a few basic principles that we might want to stick to, and today we're just going to have a look at what your army might start to look like over the first couple of thousand points or so. So the very first thing that you're probably going to get is a box of troops. So we've got 5 players and a troop master in there. Of course, you can build them as 6 players instead. It's already pretty good because you've got 1 troop choice and you've got an HQ. Now, depending on what playstyle you want to go for, if you want to keep your troops MSU, so i.e. lots of smaller units, you're definitely going to need a transport for them, and luckily that will hold the troop master as well. If you want to go down a different route and have larger units of troops running around the board, just large blocks of 12 for example, you might consider just buying another troop box instead. Now here I've sort of added a few bikes and a couple of characters. Characters and bikes are the mainstay of our damage output within the Harlequins faction. It's also good fun to sort of start working out your colour schemes and trying to sort of build something a little bit different, because if you get, like me, get a little bit tired of getting bogged down with using the same kind of units over and over again and just painting the same thing, it starts to get a little bit tiring. So it's nice to have a bit of variation in your hobby, and also it gives you the opportunity to try out different schemes and different ideas for your colours. As I say, the characters are really important to us at the moment, and so at this point you might consider just buying a few, and it's also not the biggest expense just to be able to get a few of those in there and get an expansion to what you've already got. If you already have other Eldari and you want to soup them in, you've already got a nice little patrol detachment here with a bit of damage output that can ally into other things to give you that basis. So here I've started to flesh it out into a full battalion detachment. So I've added more troops and more transports. This in 8th edition would have given you a lot of CP. At this point it's obviously just to give you the options for 9th edition to start expanding on your army and building up that pure Harlequins list. If you're going for more of a soup list, I would basically recommend altering this and adding more bikes instead, because the troops, while very powerful, are not going to give you the same kind of bonuses as the bikes will in a mixed list, simply because the troops are the mainstay of a Harlequins army, but the bikes are probably more effective if you're looking at a competitive mixed Eldari faction. And last but not least, you can see, I'm afraid, that a couple of my bikes are not painted yet. When you start getting to this stage, you'll realise that bikes are quite a pain to paint, despite the fact that they are absolutely beautiful models. This is what I am assuming is going to be a rough estimate of what a 2,000 point list in 9th edition is going to be, or roughly what it will look like. It would be a single battalion detachment with 3 units of 5 bikes. Yes, they come in a box of 2, but you can always leave one out. 2 Void Weavers just for screening purposes, a battalion with 3 small units of troops, and a bunch of character support. So this might be an idea of the kind of list that you might want to look at. Of course, if you're already an established Harlequins player, you're probably going to have a few more troops, and you probably won't have maybe any Void Weavers. One tip that I can give you, which is something that I don't do myself, but I know would be absolutely beneficial to collecting the Harlequins, is to magnetize your troops for their weapons options. If you don't want to magnetize, or if you're not interested in magnetizing, buy an extra box of troops or 2 like I have, just so that you have the weapons options. At the moment, what I'm looking at is eventually upgrading my troops to having 1 fusion pistol and 4 melee weapons 2 units with 4 caresses and 1 unit with 4 kisses to support my characters and do a little bit of damage when they go in. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously there are lots of different ways of collecting the faction, but we have a fairly limited range of units, so you can't really go too wrong with them if you do decide to go in a different direction with your army. Let me know what you think, guys. This is what I'm thinking of running. This is kind of my estimation for 9th. If you think I'm completely off, let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.